What is going on, everybody? I would usually start off by saying happy whatever day it is. I believe it's Thursday now. um, our whole lives have flipped upside down, and not just because we can't play DFS, although that's probably what we're going to talk about, as well as sports and sort of the future and what's going on. But it's a pretty scary time. There's a lot going on right now. We just thought it'd be nice to get a video out and basically just we've started a little community with you guys here, and we don't want to lose that, and we want to stay in touch with you guys and talk about sort of our thoughts on what's going on, and we're happy to hear your thoughts as well. Please leave us notes, write us on Twitter, in the chat, whatever. And we're gonna get through this time. Hopefully you guys played golf and are doing well. I know we didn't do a golf show, but hopefully somebody else got you there. Sheets, what are your initial thoughts? I mean, that was just the most bizarre, unprecedented, like the Rudy Gobert, the way it happened actually felt made up. Like I was telling you this, we were talking about this pre-show. I've never looked at something in my life where it felt just completely fake, because we're talking about it, we're joking about it. He's touching the microphones and all that, and he's got karma. He got coronavirus, ha ha. And to find out that actually caused, look, at the very short term, it caused me to lose some money on DraftKings. In the long run, this is a major issue, and obviously the NBA is taking the right steps, but it's bizarre times here. It feels like you're living in the middle of a movie, and it's kind of bizarre that it's sort of right on our doorsteps. It's more in our world than it is in most people's world, just because of how close we are with the NBA, and this is what I do for a living. So she just want to bring you in. I don't really know how to run the show or talk about stuff like this, but felt like we could just sort of go back and forth and talk about our ideas and our point of view.
As far as some of you have been following some of my tweets and some of my comments on these shows, you might have kind of gathered that I was in Singapore a few weeks ago. My daughter she goes to Lehigh, and she travels. She spent the semester abroad, so she's spending the whole semester in Singapore. And back in middle to end of January, when the coronavirus first started hitting, and it was only in China, right? We were kind of like on top of this, like before anybody in the United States was kind of on top of it, because we were more concerned about it because she's going to school in Asia. And so we were following along, and we were supposed to go visit her in the beginning of February, actually middle of February. And we were back and forth on what we were going to do. And we were following along what's going on. And people were, I don't want to say ignorant in the United States, but that's the best I could describe it, because it was so out of touch. It was over in Asia. They thought it was some wild outlier thing that was going to affect Asia, and we could just kind of sit back and just not worry about it or whatever it is. And then so we went over to Singapore, and we did make the trip, based on certain evidence that we thought it was going to be okay. And what we experienced in Singapore was something that I kind of tweeted about several times, and I actually posted an article, and Bobby did too, about what they were doing to kind of combat it there. And my comments over there was that, Singapore's a different country than we are, in that, they don't really have a lot of freedoms there. The government kind of runs things. And I was kind of joking sort of when I was over there that, I'm a registered Democrat since I'm 19 years old. Like I had a freaking Mondale Ferraro bumper sticker on my first car, So that's where I stand on my politics. But it was kind of refreshing and comforting to see what could happen when the government kind of takes control of things, and people just kind of just let their rights kind of take a back seat to safety for a while. And what they did over there, they handled it so well. You had people walking into public places over there, and you had to subject yourself to a temperature screen. And it took 2 seconds. Nobody complained. Nobody bitched. And they totally took care of everything over there. And people in the United States just kind of couldn't believe it. And when I came back, I was telling my stories. And I'm like, I really hope that when, because it's not an if, but when this hits the United States, that the United States is kind of battles it the same. But there was just still kind of like out of touchness with everybody, thinking, well, it's not going to really come here. I don't know anybody Chinese. I don't know this, that, and the other thing. But then when it even started coming, we just kind of had a feeling something was going to happen. But not until, and this is the way I always think about this, not until it happens to either someone or somebody famous does it really just shock like that many people, right? So I think within, honestly, like an 8-minute period, at least for me, as far as my news flow goes, when I heard that Rudy Gobert had it and Tom Hanks had it, you know what I mean? Like those affect two different levels, two different communities. But that was just really just hopefully finally, you know, let people realize that this is real, you know, because when you see like numbers on a dashboard, like X amount of people, you don't really think, whatever, I don't really know anybody has it, you know, whatever it is. But when you see people like that actually have it, I think that really accelerated things. And I guess that's my first comment on it. That was like very, very, very long-winded. I don't want to get into policy with the U.S. and how they're handling it and all that kind of stuff. But that's just kind of my experience leading up to this moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. And by the way, I just have some updated information, and I'm not sure about the exposure, the access to this information. So basically, out of 10,000 samples they've done from testing around in the U.S. so far, roughly 10,000 samples, about 13% of people have tested positive.
Okay.
If that's the case, you should assume that there's about conservatively, we're recording this on Thursday morning, and it's March, 12th, that there are probably hundreds of thousands of people who have this have not been tested yet. And that's probably conservative, to be honest. So I think now is the time to call off the social everything. Just want to point that out. That's my personal take. I'm actually going to get emotional. I don't want to get emotional, but I don't think I'm going to be able to see my daughter for a little while because I'm going to self-contain myself. The 5 to 14 days that it takes to make sure that you're okay it's a little too risky for me to just, I've been social in a lot of situations lately and less than I had been before, but you know, I don't want to risk it. Not to mention that I ordered my new car, but it doesn't arrive till Tuesday. So I would have to take the train up to see her, which is about to shut down too, I'm sure. Basically, according to some of the people who are talking to Amtrak, it probably got another day or two. Anyway, these are pretty unprecedented times, and it's just affecting everyone, and that's a really scary fact if that's accurate. It's just something. The one silver lining about these kind of things is I do think that there's a way it unites people. Like going back to the horrible tragedy with Kobe and 9/11, and I hope we unite for like in a good way. I hope we don't unite actually celebrating, holding hands, and hugging and all that. But I hope that people are actually just drop all the stuff with the, you know, election and everything. Just let's not get crazy against each other on everything and talk about how terrible a job someone's doing and complain. Let's just try to, you know, safely get through this, which basically means isolating yourself for the time being. And that's what I would recommend that people start doing, at least for until we find out more how many more people have this. Because you can bet if Rudy Gobert was so now they're saying that the extreme caution is the last 6 games they played over the last 10 days. It's been basically the whole gauntlet of everywhere over the NBA in New York and everywhere. And I'm not saying the fans even, I'm just saying that if all those players have it and who they've come in, if you're talking about 13% out of 10,000 sample size, that's just horrifying. Anyway, sorry to go on a little rant there. I don't know what to talk about.
So I'll come back with this. So I got, you know, I got a very strong score in my SATs when I was younger. And I had a C+ in biology. Okay. So I don't know anything about that. And as I got older, I became, you know, again, I don't know much about medicine. I don't know much about anything like that, but I consider myself kind of world-class when it comes to balancing emotion with risk, and I consider myself kind of elite when it comes to reading other people's assessment of risk and figuring out what I'm supposed to do, because I am the last person to act emotionally with stuff like this. Like I'm always, and that's why my wife and I, Miss Sheets and I, get along really well, is that she's the one that says, how can we go to Singapore? There's one person that has the case. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I'm the analytic person that goes through it, and I can kind of, I consider myself excellent at knowing when to be emotional, when to act, or whatever. So I'm like the last one to panic and things like that. And, you know, with that said, again, I don't want to ever tell people what to do. I know people come here and ask for advice on DFS. I really don't need to give life advice, because who am I to do that? But I will just say that based on my assessment of risk in general and how people are reacting and things you could do, I think that the risk that you take by being diligent is very small. You know what I mean? It's the equivalent of, I'm not the equivalent, I don't want to make everything about a gambling reference, right? But But it's the equivalent of if you're thinking of doing something silly like going on a cruise or something like that. And I'm not saying silly like I know everything, but it's to me it's the equivalent if you play poker of shoving 1,000 big blinds in at 1-2. You know what I mean? Like it's you're not gaining that much, honestly, if you get away with it. And if you don't get away with it, the consequences are just brutal, you know. And so for me, I mean, maybe just because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to go out to large gatherings anyway, so it's easy for me, I suppose. But I'm gonna be shit ton more diligent. You know what I mean? And my wife's been on me for years. Like, you should always wash your hands more when you come back from basketball. You should do this is the other thing. And I'm gonna be extra diligent when it comes to seeing people and at least for the next, you know, until I feel otherwise. I just don't see any real need to push my luck or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think some of the things that people are talking about doing, you have to assess how much that benefits you as a function of the risk you're taking to get that benefit. And then what are you going to lose if you're wrong? You know what I mean? Like if someone offered me free tickets, let's say they were running the NCAA tournament still or whatever it is, and someone offered me free tickets, I wouldn't go. I just wouldn't, you know, I mean, with the information I have now. Now, look, in a week, you know, the information is very fluid. And yeah, I think that most people agree that things are going to get worse before it gets better. And there's a lot of different ways this could go. Very few of them I like right now. But, you know, you can always just reassess your things, like reassess your behavior as things go on. But I do think that diligence is certainly called for, and it's certainly more called for than the mocking that we heard all through the last like 2 or 3 weeks. You know, like what a fish move by all you poker players. I mean, you guys are supposed to be analytic guys, and you're going to succumb to the fear of the whatever you call it.
As of 4 days ago, I was getting actively mocked for deciding to skip the sports betting championship in New York, which, by the way, I would love to see you. I would love to see my buddy, one of my best friends who my whole life lives out there. There's a lot of extra things. My daughter was going to come with me on spring break. We canceled that part a while ago, but it was going to be like a great trip, and I want to play. I wanted to do it. I said, there's no way I'm doing that right now. These live finals are going to affect a lot of people. There's a lot of people who play DFS basically for the live finals only, trying to win that huge prize. And people may not realize that that's a big group, and a lot of my friends do that. And now, you know, I don't know how this is going to work. But that's another thing in our area. It's just beware that everything is at the speed of light. It's going to start happening really fast. And the one thing is, we all say, you know, look, we're DFS people. We're not medical experts and all that stuff, and don't listen to us. The one thing I would trust this industry on, the same thing I would trust poker players on, is math. And math where you're trying to figure out, okay, if we've only done 10,000 sample size and 13% of people are testing positive, all of a sudden that number it feels absolutely alarming. I don't know where those numbers are. This is all still just coming in, but it means that it's time to shut down, in my opinion. So you can all do what you want, but if you're able to, make sure to try to work from home, try to, you know, get tested if you have any symptoms. I don't know what else to say, man. I just wanted to throw a few things out there, and I feel like I'm talking and not really making sense. This is just a weird time. I don't have like a feel for this.
So I wonder what the ages of the people that are really watching this. So for those of you that were not around, or at least not old enough to experience 9/11, right? So I was already, you know, full-grown adult, you know what I mean, when that happened. And the aftermath of 9/11, when it came to sports and participating in activities and things like that, what was going around was this idea that on the one hand, you had people that were afraid to go out because they didn't want to get involved in any more terrorist activities, obviously. And then there was another group that was saying, well, you know, if you just hole up in your house and they don't have sports and they don't have music and whatever, then the big quote then was, then the terrorists win. Okay. So that's what was going on back then. And the thing is that everybody was kind of together on this. So for a little while, they suspended baseball for maybe, like, I forget what it was. It wasn't that long, maybe even a day or two. And then they just, you know, they had the Mike Piazza game or whatever. They all came back, and everybody's kind of, you know, didn't want to let the quote unquote terrorists win, right? But this is different. You know what I mean? This is the going out itself and the subjecting yourself to for the disease itself, it's not like nobody's winning. You know what I mean? This is a
Right.
health issue. This is not a social issue. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so that's the one seminal date I want to throw out. And the other one, not to insensitively transition into DFS and gambling and stuff, but the other day that this feels like, for those of you that used to play online poker, was what was, unaffectionately known as Black Friday, where all of a sudden, it seems that all of a sudden, people's livelihoods and their ability to make money and to pursue passions and or hobby, whatever you want to call it, basically came to a screeching halt. Now, to rewind back, at that particular moment, I was playing almost every day. I was backing tens of people in multiple tournaments every day. I mean, just the money that was at stake was immeasurable. I had so much money online that money became at risk and all this stuff. But what was interesting that a lot of people don't realize was that when Black Friday happened, the poker community was already in a little bit of flux. Like there was already like party poker that was already had some issues, and UB already had some issues or whatever it was. So and the games were getting harder anyway. But that was already in flux. So it's in a way similar that while it happened, the Black Friday part when the full ban with PokerStars and Fulton happened at once, you saw a little bit of the signs. And I think similar to this with respect to DFS, I feel as though over the last week or so, now again, everything accelerates nowadays as the information goes. But I do feel as though there was some, writing on the wall that sports, being what it is, was going to, have to suffer a little bit in some form. And the DFS community, and DFS is a part of that. So like for me, and I know you're different than I am. I'm like, because I run a hedge fund for 17, 18 years. It's my main thing. And I always have something else going on that, keeps my brain going, that makes me extra money, that does whatever, because I always loved that. I used to be backgammon, then it was poker, chess, then backgammon, then poker. When poker stopped, I had nothing to do with my insomnia, midnight to 3 a.m. time, whatever it was, or to keep my brain working outside the construct of my hedge fund. So that's when I did a little more AAU basketball. And then when I got involved in the DFS thing, it kind of filled that kind of void for me, because it let me kind of, do kind of my gambling and my portfolio management approach to it, and forget even the money part. It was something that was a passion of mine that I kind of developed that filled some time. And then when I started doing these things with Bobby, to try to transition more into the content piece of it also, I mean, I was really felt as though we were just kind of like humming along or whatever it is. So when you get something like this that puts a little of it in flux, I feel for all you, and I don't know how many of you that are listening are stone professionals at this, and this is like all you do, but I feel for you, man. I mean, because yeah, the money part of it is what is important, but also just, your passion and the time you dedicated. So, I don't think that the issues are going to be as widespread as like Black Friday. Like I do think that sports and DFS will come back, once this thing gets kind of contained a little bit better. But I know how you guys feel right now. And look, and I know that people are taking to Twitter and making some jokes about it, but I know what am I going to bet on now? What are we going to gamble on now? But it's in a way true, like this is what a lot of people do for a living, for a passion, call it whatever you want. So what I was, I was pretty cold about this right off the bat when this happened last night. I texted Bob and I'm like, listen, this obviously sucks, but number one, I put in too much in my effort. I worked too hard to just kind of just like crawl into a hole about this, So whether I am going to, and I think that we're going to talk a little more off air about this, but between now and the next time you could play DFS seriously, whether that be the NBA return, whether it be MLB return, I am going to be focusing on number one, is continuing to put out some kind of content, whether that be kind of standardish type videos on how to play DFS in general, how to use optimizers, things like that. I also want to continue to prepare for the baseball season. I really do. And whether that happens or not, this is what I did when Black Friday happened. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to prepare in case it comes back. Turns out it really didn't, but whatever. It was the effort for me doing it that was intellectually stimulated for me anyway. So, me being kind of just good at baseball and not expert, I'm gonna work on my baseball in the next couple of weeks and just and do some simulations and do whatever and plan on that. Maybe even pick Bobby's brain on the side to see if maybe I can become a little better for when baseball season actually starts. And so when baseball season does come, if in fact it comes, we're going to be ready, honestly, to provide you with excellent content. And if baseball gets postponed for the year, or if it gets postponed for a week or a month, that's going to be what it is. But my brain is still has enough allocated to this project, to this passion, such that I'm going to continue to make it worth my time and hopefully yours to put in some type of content with whatever is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm in for all that. We're also developing our site. I'll go ahead and say it now. It's just getting underway, but it's called True DFS. We've got a few videos up there right now, but not everything yet. Sorry, I'm not getting some weird stuff from people on the other side asking me about these refunds, and it just kind of distracted me a little bit.
So props out, by the way, to FanDuel and DraftKings for that.
No, to FanDuel. Where's DraftKings? They haven't done it.
I've heard they were going to do it. They haven't done it yet.
I haven't heard from them. I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about DraftKings, but FanDuel, major props to them for getting it done so quickly. I mean, I'm still confused about yesterday, but I do want to say that it is really weird to me that after a day like yesterday, that what FanDuel did is pretty amazing. I don't really know. I mean, that's a big deal. Like, they're giving up a lot of money.
It's a lot of money,
and it's a big deal, man. It's I can see why DraftKings would have like a quick, okay, what do we do exactly with this? I don't know.
It's not only that, but it's also a shitload of money to give up in the face of knowing that your revenues are going to be totally buried for a little while,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people do the right thing when they're flush. You know how this works in life. You know what I mean? Like people do the right thing when they're flush, but when they take a hit, it's a little harder for them to do. I don't want to even say the right thing, but to be generous. Let's call it what it is. When it's going to really impact them on a percentage basis. So props definitely do go out for these guys. So taking that financial risk, I shouldn't look. I don't feel bad. I mean, they make a lot of money, obviously, but that's I really didn't know what to expect. And between you, me, and the wall, I made kind of a joke like yesterday. I said, listen, if they run this if they cancel the Sacramento game, I don't want my money back. But if they run it, I'm really going to want these results to stand. Because I had all kinds of Sacramento exposure last night. I was joking about it. So I really didn't know what they were going to do. And I think paying all the winners and losers, and that's good shit, man. That's the best I can say.
Yeah, hey, that works for me in general. Although I'm still yet to see it from DK. So wake up, DK. Do the right thing here. I do really want to I need to get some confirmation on some of these numbers because I'm just shocked. I don't know why that's. I mean, I don't know how that's not the most alarming thing in history if that's accurate. So I need.
What thing?
13% on 10,000 samples.
So the 10,000 people that got tested, 13% tested positive.
Yeah, but they're supposedly it's being tried to keep a little bit quiet.
So in the United States, or is that what they're saying?
They're saying that's the thing. I don't have all the answers. I believe it's in the United States. I'm trying to read this because I'm seeing it from multiple people, but not from actual sources yet.
Well, there's quite a bit of bias in all this stuff. You know what I mean? If a person is going to go to the point of getting tested.
I just bet by Monday we hear about the huge numbers. I think we're not going to hear it yet. And the truth is, my mom has been sick. I just talked her into coming from Santa Barbara to LA to get tested. I think this is worse than what people are making it out to be.
It's definitely worse than people because there's all kinds of people, as you were saying, that just don't get tested, right? For a lot of reasons. First of all, no one wants to be quarantined, right? If they feel like the fool, you know what? I'll just suck it up. I'll take Tamiflu. You know what I mean? I'll take whatever. I'll just, I don't need to be freaking everybody asking questions, And I know
quarantined oddly enough in Italy before on a boat. And we had a Legionella scare. Well, it was not a Legionella scare. We found out we had Legionella on the boat. And it was a weird experience. It actually was one of the coolest. I mean, my ex-girlfriend, and we we sort of used the time, and like it was the beginning of our relationship. She just came to visit me in Europe, and we sort of, that was the time we fell in love. So it was kind of, there couldn't be worse things than, you know, being stuck on the boat with her, I guess. But it was a weird vibe, and it was strange to be, they didn't want us to walk around Venice, which is where we were. After a couple of days, they let us go, but it was a very, very strange thing. And I just would suggest that everybody gets all their stuff today and stocks up.
Hey, what about your take on this? So I was going to tweet this, but I really just didn't feel like getting the responses. You know what I mean? So Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, right? So they tested positive to the virus. Now, I presume now they're going to get treatment, which obviously is going to be administered by, you know, the cream of the crop doctors in the world, right? So as I would suspect, these two very, you know, statistically fit individuals, right? They'll, you know, when they come out of this in a reasonable period of time, in the public eye, no less, kind of healthy, which you probably expect of someone like these guys. I wonder how it's going to be taken. Are we going to get a whole new group of people come in saying, "See, I told you it's no big deal. As long as you're healthy and young, you really have nothing to worry about"? Or is it people? Are people going to go with these guys and say, "Wow, this is like a really"? Like, I hope that these guys being in the public eye doesn't make people a little too comfortable, I guess, if they do get. As I do expect these guys to get better, because these are the outlets. These are the most healthy people in the universe, you know.
If they don't, that should cause like a panic.
That's a horror show.
Like anything, because then there's everything we know about your immune system. Like, so basically, the thing that's interesting to me is that your immune system, everything they told us early on was complete BS. It was complete shit. You're more likely to get this if you smoke or if you have this and that. Absolutely not true. What is true is if you're older and you are fragile and you have health issues of any kind, you're more likely to die from this, but you're not more likely to you're going to get it. It's just about delay is the name of the game. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, it's just, that's it.
And the other thing I would mention to you is this whole thing about it's just the flu. Like that's the new hashtag. It's just the flu thing that people are saying, you know, and comparing it. First of all, again, and I said this a couple of times on Twitter, you know, you're what, are you 40? I mean, you're close,
38.
Right? Yeah, you're 38, right? So, and there are a lot of people listening to this and a lot of people in the DFS community, a lot of people in the Twitter community that are younger, right? And first of all, not to discount the flu, but as you get older, the flu sucks. Okay, yeah. So I mean, like I all I could say is that I'm 53, and three years ago I had the flu, and I consider myself kind of a young type of guy, but I'm like 50 is not like not as older than most people on the Twitter sphere that I'm on. I mean, dude, I was just in a world of shit when I had the flu. Like I was literally in my office laying on my back. And I will say this, like, I don't want to say who it is, but some guy I really, really love on Twitter. I mean, it's a really nice guy. I've known him a long time. Just came out. I don't know what he was doing, trying to prove a point, like saying, listen, you give me $250,000, I'll contract the coronavirus. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, please.
But they're doing that here. That's not a thing over there. They're paying people to get the coronavirus.
Oh, I know that. That's what I'm saying. And Matt, I love him, you know, but I'm like, dude, listen, I'll pay you not to get it. Honestly, like, I love you too much. And I will say that when I had the flu that time, even though it was just quote unquote the flu, I mean, I would have paid a hell of a lot more than $250,000, honestly, for me not to have it when that was at its peak. So, and the reason I bring it up is yeah, you're 21 years old, you're one thing. But for you to discount, like, even if it is, quote, just a bad flu, I've known people that have gone into the hospital with the flu and never come out. Okay, so look, great, you're healthy, but you know what? Don't go freaking infecting yourself and then go fraternizing with people that maybe aren't. You know what I mean? Like, so congratulations. Maybe you're like really stupid healthy, but that doesn't mean you should go in a freaking old age home with your freaking unwashed hands. You know what I mean? Like, have some respect for the people that are more affected.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just about us. And also, one thing I'll point out that, you know, wasn't that, like, look, in the grand scheme of time, 102 years was a long time ago, but there was a flu that killed 50 million people. So this happens about every 100 years. We get a plague or something. And this, you know, look, even if its sole thing is it just wipes out the older population, that's not okay with me. my family is a huge part of my family is between 60 and 95. And those people mean a lot to me. And I think a lot of them have a lot of years left. And I don't want to just write them off. I don't want to write off my parents. You know what I mean? I'm not okay with just accepting that it doesn't happen to us, it happens to older people. And also, I also want to add that we don't know that much. We don't know how different bodies, everything is going to, they just don't know. There's not enough time yet. That's why everything you can do to delay, hopefully we get into the summer heat months. I don't know what it's like out in New York right now, but it's been like raining consistently down here in LA. Very, very strange, but you want the heat to come and at least help maybe.
The good news is this should have been the sign of this. There's been no winter here. There's been one snowstorm the whole year, and it was like back in November. It was.
Should we pivot over to climate change now?
No, but I'm just saying that. So I mean, not that this is particularly helpful to anyone, but I guess just to lighten it up a little bit. I mean, what do you think? I mean, again, people are all about their predictions and then bragging about it after the fact, But first of all, I will tell you that I do agree with who's a draft sheet on there. It's not a good position to be in to have a negative opinion on something like this because if you're right, it's a disaster, and if you're wrong, they bury you.
What was draft sheet's take on it? Because he switched completely, I think.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that he's been pretty gloom and doomy for like the last period of time, as far as I've been able to.
Which is amazing because he's the kind of guy who sloughs this stuff off and does the whole,
Well, and that should tell you something. Like I said, you know what I mean? Like we talk about reading people. If you find someone who's never afraid of anything, that suddenly turns there, it's probably something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
But the reason I mean, like you talk about like stock market stuff, I won't get too much into this, but I'm the type of person that can be short the market from time to time, and if that's the case, I mean, it's kind of a tough position to be in because if the market does go down, then yeah, my clients are happy, but I'm just kind of like the evil guy. You know what I mean? And not only that, but everybody else is like really mad, and it's a disaster anyway for the rest of the world. And then if I'm short the market, for example, and things go up or whatever, then people are mad at me. So having kind of a negative opinion on things is definitely a difficult place to be. But so I mentioned it. I mean, I know that making predictions is just kind of fun and whatever it is. And not that we're going to be like bragging if we're right or wrong or things like that. But where do you think, do you think, for example, the NBA returns like in any form this season?
Yes. Okay. I would bet for July or August or something if I had to make a bet. And if that happens, that's a good sign. But by then, look, people might have already all had it. Like we might be having a very different conversation in 5. Things are going to go at the speed of light. But yeah, I would imagine the amount of money just that's in this, and it would be hard for me to see it happening hard for me not to see it happening. But I don't know, man. I think what we might see is like maybe just the playoffs from everything being equal where we are now.
That's interesting.
Because it would be kind of weird to play that, like, I don't know. Look, all the games technically are unnecessary, but to maybe skip the unnecessary games, maybe that would be a little bit of a positive thing to do in the right direction. I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting time.
You think is there going to be any of like the HIV ignorance factor coming in? Like, let's just say they do come back in like a month, and let's just say that like Gobert and Mitchell or anybody from the Jazz, for example, comes back to play. Are people going to like, I don't feel like playing with guys from the Jazz and stuff like that?
Probably, but that's stupid, obviously.
Was stupid. Karl Malone was stupid back when no one knew anything about AIDS. You know what I mean? It's when he's like, I refuse to play with Magic. You know what I mean? So I it's interesting. When we talked about this before, I think off air, playing the NBA with like no fans, it just didn't seem right for me just to have a spectator sport with no spectators, right? So in general, why put a Broadway show on with no fans? The reason why the NBA exists is because of the fans. And I think that if they did delay it, and if they were able to pull it off with like a month off and get a decent amount of the season in and playoffs with fans, for example, I think from a financial perspective, it would have been a huge home run for them, as opposed to like just kind of playing it with no fans. Because I think the fans in the stadium probably do amount to a not like baseball like we talked about earlier, but I think the fans in the stands do amount to a decent amount of revenues for them. So I think that not having any games might end up being a better result than playing games in these shell arenas, you know. But I'm agreeing with you. I think that the NBA does come back in some form. I didn't consider just the playoffs idea though. Maybe something where you like make it like almost like high school where maybe you let everybody make the playoffs or something like that in the NBA. No. I mean, why not? You turn it into a tournament or something like that.
Well, you know, it kind of fits along. They actually would be the best time ever to I think they've been trying to push that mid-season tournament where basically you would have the teams that are all competing, all the non-playoff teams playing for that last spot.
That's a good idea. Something like that. I never thought of that. That's been something that's gone around. Okay.
That was the idea. Like that was way before all this stuff had to be. It just was It was a great.
I never heard of that before.
It's sort of like what they do with the Champions League versus, you know, the Premier League. You know, and all that. So to have something like that would be a cool thing, and this would be a great opportunity for them to implement that. Should we get that news? And by the way, I would recommend they do it March Madness tournament style, one game eliminations. Everybody plays each other who's not in the playoffs. And they all play the team 7 and 8 teams have to be in part of this tournament too.
Or you could do a blend. You could do single elimination so you get to the finals, and then you could play a 4 out of 7 or something. I mean, like there's a lot.
If they would do that, it would probably change the history.
How do we know? I mean, like I said, nobody's ever done it.
It's unprecedented times, obviously.
But I do think there will be NBA. Do you think that the NCAA tournament? Oh, this is kind of an easy one, but I don't know. Do you think the NCAA tournament will be played at all?
I think the NCAA tournament. I don't know how they can, but if there's one group other than FIFA that you don't trust in sports, and it's the NCAA. Like these are the most disgustingly greedy people I've ever. I mean. It's awful. They're disgusting. It's a horribly run company. My buddy used to work. He does marketing. He used to work for them. He said he's never worked with a company with more. I mean, he's worked for everybody, but he's never worked with a company that was more incompetent. And that's sort of the common thinking behind the NCAA. So I don't trust them. I don't know how to guess. I mean, we were pre-show. Like there was a moment this morning where all the leagues except for the ACC were canceled their tournaments. The ACC wouldn't do it, and then he finally did it at the last minute.
Well, not to mention the again, this is the least sensitive part of it. I mean, the most insensitive part, but how would they determine who's in the tournament?
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't run these conference tournaments. You have these automatic bids that just don't exist. I mean, I'm sure if they had to, like you said, the NCAA is corrupt as it comes, like they'd figure it out. They'd have the SEC just basically let all their teams play in it, and the ACC would let all their teams play in it, or whatever it is. But I'm sure, that's actually a very interesting bit of administration that might make making the NCAA tournament very difficult to run, even if they wanted to. You don't know who would play in it.
Yeah. You know what I did I just remembered something. We're talking about Black Friday before.
Yeah.
Remember on Black Friday, this was really stupid. I don't understand why. It was, I guess, my way of dealing with frustration was often to play poker tournaments, which, by the way, I know it doesn't sound like a positive result. For me, it was the best. And mostly I would only play 6-max or heads-up tournaments if it was that.
Absolutely.
I would just I would go, it was like a stress relief. I would immediately play my best. It was the greatest thing. So I got stressed, and all I did was just fire up a million tournaments. I hadn't been playing regularly. I was like, okay, I'm just going to put 8K out there. And I still to this day don't really, I wish I hadn't done that. I don't really know why I did that.
You know what you can do, by the way, and I'm not even kidding. Like if you're like a newer player that has a little bit of money, you know what I mean, and can afford to lose like $50 a night or play $50 a night and lose it. Play one of these MMAs, these other sports, but literally a max enter, the cheapest buy-in possible to get practice. If that's what you want to learn how to do, you know what I mean? Like, cause I want to learn a little bit better how to mass enter. So I might actually do that as just as kind of an exercise, is learning how to create rules, learning how to do optimizers, learning how to build, and learning how to react and things like that. That's something you certainly could do if you wanted to. And again, I don't even know what sports exist. I don't even know. By the way, I'm gonna have to figure out what is esports. That's like is that what Elke did? That's
gaming. He did one of the other games. I mean, it is. I actually
StarCraft. Yeah,
right. He did StarCraft, but there is an opportunity. I mean, here's what's going to happen. So let's talk about ways we can pivot. And first of all, something that's pressing. So my initial thing for golf today, which I didn't really go through, I was making my golf lineups in frustration last night. But my whole thing was, okay, we don't know when this is going to be canceled. So I was talking to my friends who know golf the best. I did my research, talked to some guys in the industry, and just asked them who has the best chance to have the best day one.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's sort of the angle that I try to take. And
I love it.
Basically, they liked the early part of it. So that was, and by the way, so far it's just, I mean, everybody 3 under is my worst players on most of my lineups, and I've got Matsuyama basically locked in. He's 9 under.
Nice.
So we're gonna have some golf sweats. But I would just warn you that be careful. Like, I'm not saying this tournament won't finish. I expect it to. It's golf. It's a different thing. But we don't know what's going to happen over the next few days.
Well, you know what tournament, you know what you could play that you know that if it starts, it's finishing, is freaking NASCAR. I mean, that thing, if they drop that white flag, is it the white flag that starts? They drop that green flag, it starts. They're finishing. They're not calling them out after 130 laps saying that someone's got the coronavirus. They're stopping it in the middle. That is one. I tell you, I haven't played that all too often, but when I've done that can be a pretty effed up sweat. You know what I mean? Like you could be locked in, and then one little bump the wrong way, and the whole thing just comes completely unraveled. Hey, props out to Stevie and whoever else is actually expert in NASCAR, because that's rough business. Because number one, first of all, it's tough to win on your own in NASCAR. You know what I mean? You're almost always like chopping it with somebody. It's a little annoying, but it's only a couple hours. You know, I just don't know how to play. You know what I mean? Like, you know how I ended up playing? I actually played like 5 NASCAR slates. I've won like 3 of them. What I do is just find like the guys whose content I trust the most, and then just try to see who's going to be the lowest owned of those guys, and just kind of play them all. That's kind of the way I did it. But
there has to be some watchability for this stuff. Like NASCAR is literally, it's like torture to me to see it on TV.
Oh, really?
I hate it. I despise it. I have no interest in it. I would be interested watching a drag race than I would watch.
My problem with golf is that it just takes so effing long.
It does. But it's kind of been like you know what? Just lately, I've gotten into it a little bit because but it's taken a long time, and only the last few years have I started watching golf. But when you've got some action going on it's
I guess I've never really had a big sweat there, so I guess that's
it's pretty fun. I had a couple big sweats already this year, and hopefully we'll have.
Okay, so the basketball thing, is going to come. I think the NBA is going to come at some point. We'll be ready when it comes. Let's put it that way. And in the meanwhile, again, we're going to be doing little, kind of like just overall DFS stuff. The other sports.
Sorry, no, I want to mention real quick. I don't want to forget about it. Sorry to cut you off. But we're going to do. We have to do that. Talk a little bit about our backgrounds. Give people a little bit.
Absolutely.
So we'll do one of those videos. Anyway, sorry, Sheets, keep going.
Absolutely. So I mean, looking at my DraftKings like lobby. Oh my God! You actually see NBA is shaded on my sports. You know what I mean? Like stuff that's not available, like right between NFL and college football. It's like right in there. So like golf, we talked about. XFL is not available in my state.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not available in my state, so I don't have any input there. Hockey, I'm not sure if hockey is gonna continue much either. If you want to know the truth, but I don't know. I kind of like hockey every time I play, whatever. So we could certainly talk about that. But for me, I really think that the percent chance that the Major League Baseball starts either close or on schedule is good enough that I'm going to be ready to do some real good MLB stuff. Because remember, the first year I did MLB, honestly, I did this will be my 3rd year. First year, Bobby swore to me he was like really, really good MLB. And I'm like, okay, I'll just listen to what you have to say. And the problem I had is that I was coaching AAU so much during the spring that I was literally, I practiced 3 days a week that were starting at 6 o'clock. It went right to whatever. So I would either not play at all or put in stuff that would get scratched, and it was like a little bit of annoying, so I wouldn't play all that much. And last year I got much better at it, and I had some sweats, and I actually won for the year, and so I'm ready for a good MLB season, presuming it goes off unhindered. So as far as like stuff to do in between, I'm gonna probably, I think from a content perspective, if you want to like drag some hockey expert in here to like talk about it, I mean, I got no problem asking him the right questions. where you can ask them the right questions. If
Sure,
that's what
absolutely.
people want, or people, I'm sure there are many people that are golf experts that would love to get some exposure as far as, they want to get their exposure out to other people. We're getting, pretty decent following there. So
Yeah,
maybe we can get them on or whatever. So,
yeah,
I mean,
that's
but
the
again,
idea.
I'm not stupid enough to suggest that I would give good golf advice. I mean, I would give good, general advice. So you tell me who you like. I can tell you how to create a good lineup based on ownerships. I mean, that's for sure. But as far as actual content goes, I mean, that's kind of not my thing. But we could be disseminators. We could just disseminate and aggregate. We could find people who are good at it.
They just canceled the
To get
NHL
on there if
season,
you want.
just this moment.
What's that?
They just postponed the NHL season.
So as I was saying,
Literally, as you're talking about it,
so as I was saying, soccer is a really, really cool sport. Are they still doing?
Soccer got canceled too.
Soccer's canceled too.
Yep.
So we have probably the most disgusting of them all is MMA.
XFL is not going to happen, and MMA is not going to. MMA might happen for like one more week or something.
One more run.
Jesus, man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
If you're a good poker player, I'm going to recommend that you get your America's Card Room account. You get whatever's going on. If you haven't been playing, get to playing because the games are going to be extremely soft. In about 4 days, when everybody's locked in and nobody has DFS and you get all the X DFS, some of you are those people. But if you're just
let me tell you something. I got the America's Card Room account and I actually try to fire it up. I actually do play like every couple of months or whatever. And actually, there's a software problem, and I have to now. I'm in support hell with them about getting that fired up or whatever.
Oh no, I hate that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. But
well, I might do a little streaming for some pokers one of these days too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Follow me on my Twitch channel too. Me and Sheets will get one together, but like for right now, go to BobbyFi on Twitch.
Did they cancel the Bay 101?
I actually haven't heard that yet. I mean, obviously it's got to be right. I mean,
you would think, right?
Let me just take
well, because there was one poker thing that came out today. This was I would say funny. They started a WPT saddle event today, or was it today or yesterday? And after 3 levels, they canceled it. After 3 levels, they canceled it, sent everybody home. And I made a joke on Twitter, like in before people demand ICM for their refunds or something like that.
It's a WPT event, isn't it? I don't even see it on here. Anyway, whatever. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, so I was suggesting that maybe people are going to bitch that they should get their ICM chip counts as far as their refunds go or something like that. But that's not happening. They're just probably going to give them everybody their money.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I would say that the flying to a poker tournament right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's worse, the plane or the tournament. It's pretty close though. I mean, that's like the frying pan into the fire. You know what I mean? Like I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine doing that. I mean, let me tell. By the way, what do you think about the World Series? You think they play?
The World Series of poker? No way. Not in a million years.
Interesting.
I can't see. I mean, maybe by then.
Maybe they play with no fans.
I mean, maybe if they had a rule where you didn't have to touch chips, why not? But to me, that's the easiest thing. Just put the sites together, figure something out, and then all of a sudden you make the World Series online for one year.
Thank you. Good freaking grief. Let me tell you something. I mean, I haven't been able to play the World Series since basically I had kids, right? I played maybe once or twice when I had kids, and that was it. And let me tell you, if they played the World Series of Poker online, and look, make it even the same structure. Drag it over 3 days. I don't even care. If they play the World Series of Poker online, I will tell you this: I would be in every tournament. Okay, so that's literally the only reason I won't play is because I can't go out. I've been so dying to play online since online really was something worthwhile. So I would totally do it. I actually posted that online like a month ago. I said if they put the entire World Series of Poker online with the same structure, same everything, and made it easy to get in and to cash out, would there be more entries or less entries? And it was actually, I put a vote on Twitter, and at that point, it was actually just a draw between whether it be more entries or less entries. I think at this point, I think it's pretty clear there'd be more entries if they ran everything online. But
yeah,
can they do that though? I mean, is that even legal?
Why not?
I don't know. I mean,
all they have to do is get the sites to partner with the WSOP, or the WSOP has to buy or merge with a site, it shouldn't be that difficult to do. Actually, to me, it seems like the most feasible of anything. I mean, if there was a way
I,
for you to do that.
Because I know with the World Series of Poker, the online piece, like you could play if you're a Jersey resident, you know, and or if you have a computer in Jersey. I don't even know what's the difference.
It's tricky. I mean, sure, there's issues with it, but it's the best. At least they have like an arena that they're familiar with the form. Like, you know what I mean? Like they've got everything ready.
But here's the issue of why I don't think they're going to do that. So I again, you can tell. I mean, I don't really know much about the casino business or the poker business like that. I would imagine, from what I used to hear, the only reason that even places had poker tournaments was so that they could get people to be in the hotel to play in the casinos. That they really never made any money off of the poker tournaments. Sure. So I don't know if it's even going to work to say, okay, we'll have the World Series, but just we'll give up all the hotel revenue and the casino revenue and the meal revenue.
We're going to go into the hotels anyway.
I guess not, right?
It's not going to matter. It's just going to be that kind of time. I think we have to be ready for it. I mean, you could go on Twitter right now and just everything you can't find a counter argument. That should be another warning sign. You know what I mean? When you can't find anybody taking the other point of view anymore, and there was a lot of people.
There was a lot.
That should be a sign, you know. And so
let me ask you this. Okay, so let's say the World Series of Poker. Okay, they said, oh man, this is gruesome. They said all things are going as is. We're going to have temperature screening when you come in, you know, and we're going to have Purell at every table, and it will be no rake for the entire World Series.
I think you'd have to be bolder, and you'd have to start saying, we'll throw in an extra 10% for every event in addition to no rake. Like, I think you'd have to pay people to do it, basically, which I think they would actually consider potentially.
Yeah, I think the same people.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think the people that would say no rake, that no rake would push them over the top would be the same people that wouldn't go for any reason. You know what I mean? Like the people that would play and not give a shit about the coronavirus in general would pay 30% rake anyway. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think the people say, boy, I wasn't going to go, but that extra 10% is going to really push me over the top.
But you know who our lifers, people who do it for a living, it would be the toughest field you've ever seen in your life.
Oh my God.
It would be just the madhouse, which by the way, let's deviate over to poker. It's funny because I always found that in poker, and I find it a little bit with DFS and just sort of a general thing. I'm actually I've always done extremely well at the higher levels. And with poker, it happened almost instantly. Like I was actually sort of like playing along in the smaller stake stuff. I always made money at cash games, but like it wasn't like anything huge for me. I love tournaments. So all of a sudden I noticed that I started tracking my results and I looked and I was like, wow, at over $100, I think for 2 years I was like the 2 or 3 player in the world based on how much volume I played, of course, factoring a lot of other things in. But why is it that maybe like, what is it? You spent a lot of time with me. What is it about my brain or about different brain? You know, people think differently. Like, and the same thing happens in DFS. Obviously you have smaller fields, so it's easier to win. But I've done much better at higher limit stuff than I have at lower limit overall. What do you think?
So I probably should just abstain from this because this will be our next. This will be our next Twitter fight.
Okay, well, we'll do a little teaser.
But no, it's fine because you're now in my zone, right? So, and I have heard this argument by people who played for me for as long as I was backing people, such that when I didn't want to put him in like a 5K or I didn't want to put him in something big, they would say, no, I'm better in this tournament, in this buy.
I can statistically show you the data. I actually was better at him. I'm not
and they would say, and because, and they would give me the reasons why. And objectively and from a storytelling perspective, you could make the argument that a person can be better in the bigger buy-in things, in anything. And the argument that goes with that, and this is the one that makes sense, is especially when it comes to poker, when it comes to bluffing and things like that, if you're playing someone who you know knows what they're doing, you can put them, you could put yourself on a hand in their eyes in a more efficient way than if you're with against some wild card who's not even going to know what you're even trying to represent in the first place. So you could get away with stuff against better players or whatever, and that is how the argument goes. And similarly with DFS, for example, you could say that's
true, but that also might be a little bit undermining a little bit maybe a certain skill set, because I'm pretty well aware. It's not like I'm not doing weird things because I'm bad at them. I'm taking weird lines because I think it's a good strategy to use on good players. You don't play hands
Yeah.
the way they're supposed to be played.
No, I got you. And I get that. And without getting too much into it, I have completely rejected the proposition.
Okay, interesting. I find it fascinating because,
Yeah.
and I know sample size and all that stuff. I'm just telling you, I always like look for. Yes, the first time I played a pot limit Omaha tournament, I satellited into what I thought was a no limit hold'em. I played Omaha in cash games, but I literally was like reading my up on tournament strategy and all this stuff. And when I realized at the end of the day it was still just poker, but I was playing a 5K event, and yes, finishing third in that event, I understand certainly came with because I didn't know what I was doing as much, probably helped me. But in the long run, I mean, it was just strange to see consistently at over $100 buy-in tournaments. I just completely destroyed it. Maybe it's partly taking it seriously. That might have been another thing.
That is definitely possible.
And part of that's what supports that is I think I played about 20 European Poker Tour events, and I think I cashed 16 times, something crazy like that. I literally, but when you travel all that way, I made this argument, and by the way, we haven't done it this year, but this has been my previous argument at times for road games during the season, that some teams being better on the road, certain teams actually being able to focus and being out there, there's a real reason why some teams would just be better on the road than they are at home.
There used to be theories that in the NBA, all my sports betting theories, there used to be theories that you'd bet against a team when they came back from a long road trip in their first game at home because their freaking wives would lay all this shit on them.
Yeah.
So if they hadn't been around, oh, you got to do this now, you got to do that. You've left me alone for this long, and just started bitching at them or whatever, and call that sexist, whatever it is. But hey, back in the 80s, people were different, so that was one theory that kind of run around that some NBA players like to be on the road. You know, like you said, they're focused, and like you said, like Kyrie loves to go play in Madison Square Garden, you know, or you know, whatever it is. But
no, there are those places for certain. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point too.
Yeah.
All right, man, well, let's end this one for now, and then we'll pick it up. We don't know what the content's going to be, guys. We really appreciate you staying with us through these times, and
we're gonna try to poke our heads in once a day, maybe. You know what I mean? Just to see what's up, and maybe give you like an update. You know, just what's going on in the community, what's going on in general, and you'll be happy you stuck with us through this. Let's put it that way, because you know you'll continue to learn, and DFS will be back in some form, and we'll be able to fade Lucas Giolito again. You know what I mean? Like there'll be stuff that you'll be able to play Dodger stacks, and with all the lefties. Do we still have all the lefties? No, Peterson left, right?
Shot's gone, but this team is just loaded.
Is Muncy still there?
Yeah, Muncy. We still have Muncy and Bellinger, and now we got obviously Mookie. It's an absurd lineup.
Oh, I totally forgot that Mookie's on the Dodgers too.
Justin Turner somehow has now become like one of our worst hitters. Like, I mean, this guy had 320, and
Who's that other lefty that wasn't bad? There's a young guy. I don't know. Seager.
Seager's really good, but also we have the top. The guy who's supposed to be the best of all these guys is Gavin Lux, who's the.
Oh right, I remember he was like minimum cost for like a while last year. Right?
These guys are going to be. I mean, this Dodger team, if this season ever gets going, I mean, they might win on. They just is the kind of team that could break the record for wins. I'm not.
Okay, so just for fun, boy, I'm about to say I want to go on record when I'm cut the NCAA tournament. I was gonna say it's like a lock to be canceled, but you're reminding me about how corrupt those freaking people are, and how money just really drives that whole organization.
What if this? Oh, by the way, there's great news. I forgot to tell you one other thing. Not great news. It's crazy things.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not to cut you off again, but I wanted to. Did you happen to see what the owner said? This reminded me because this is what would have to happen to the NCAA. Basically, they'd have to have the government come in and say that you have to shut it down, which is essentially what actually happened to the NCAA, to the NBA. There was there was 4 or 5 teams that wanted to play.
Knicks, you mean?
Wanted to postpone this season. There was the rest of the league, all but one, wanted to play without fans.
No fans.
And then the other one was James Dolan, who wanted to go along and proceed accordingly.
The show goes on
until they came down and said, no, that's not your choice.
That's great.
I mean, come on. Even in these times, he's still going to make an extra way to.
That is great.
Jeez. You already cost your team a future dynasty with Kyrie and Durant, and Oh my God. Anyway, he's
That's awesome. So as I started this discussion, I thought it was going to be 90% that the NCAA tournament's canceled. I'm down to maybe 85. I just, on the one hand, you have the corruption angle. Yet on the other hand, how do they figure out who even plays? And again, if they postpone that too long, then I was joking about it on Twitter, but you can't go into finals, right?
Right.
Do these guys even take them? I shouldn't say that. That's pretty bad. I mean, you can't go too, because then you know what? Then you're into college baseball season.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So look, like you said, the news is very fluid. Look, only 24 hours ago, we were doing a full NBA slate review. You know what I mean? Like,
it hinged on whether or not Rudy Gobert played, not that hinged on whether or not he was going to give coronavirus to the entire world.
Yeah, but I don't want to give you credit for the cult, whatever it is. But you did say that nowadays, if someone says something with illness, you better freaking believe it.
Yeah, right. We did get that part right. Out illness is definitely a real thing. Oh wait, there's a new thing happening. Sorry.
What do we got?
No, oh my God, not interesting. I thought Deion Lewis said that. I thought he had coronavirus because he was trending, but he just got.
Oh no! Oh my God!
Yeah. But I was. He doesn't.
Yeah. So do you have any take on? I'll give you one more community take. I don't think I have an opinion on this. Do you have any take on the betting markets?
Like, what do you mean? Which you mean the stock market, or you mean?
No, like
you mean
having betting markets on how many people get the coronavirus and.
Oh, gee.
Betting markets on whether they have the NCAA tournament and betting markets on whether they run the WSOP. I love Mike. You know, I love Mike. I love Mike McDonald. You know, I know Mike McDonald a long time. You know, he runs poker shares or whatever it is. They were having betting. They were having betting markets on all that stuff, and they actually ran something like a couple of days ago. They put a line up on how many U.S. cases of coronavirus there was going to be within 30 days or something, and they had lines on it. And it took them about 10 hours to take it down. It just took too much heat from everybody else. But what I don't know if you've been following.
That's a shame because I would love to see where the public opinion was at and where the sharp money is.
Yeah, so I don't know if we could sharp money. There's like a $500 limit or something, and I think that the lowest price was minus 150 on. I think it was between 23,000 and 30,000 or something by the end of the month or something like that.
Lock in the over.
Yeah, but it wasn't an over. Like you could have gone over that and gotten like odds or something.
Oh
like that.
Man, yeah, that's crazy.
But what do you think of the whole thing about having betting lines and stuff like that?
Can you get? It's bizarre. I don't want to get into it, but I'm curious. So I'd like to take a look before I comment. Do you mind? Tell me, Cheeks? Do you mind after I post this video if at some point you could just pop it into the chat?
You don't follow Mike McDonald?
No, I don't.
Oh, dude. I mean, he's like, yeah. I figured every poker player followed him. That's really funny.
Oh, wait. You mean? Oh, sorry. The Michael.
My mouse.
The young guy. The guy. How old is he? Like 32 now? 31?
Yeah, I think he's like 15 by now. Yeah.
Okay, that is him. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking for some reason I thought you were. I was thinking of somebody completely different.
Yeah, Mike McDonald about poker shares.
Yeah. I know. I'm sorry. I totally mistook what you're talking about. Yeah.
All right, I am going to post that in there when we get off.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to.
All right, sounds good, guys.
Hold on, wait, just hang on a second. Okay. We don't have to leave. We could, and I could put my Twitter up. Hold on, let's see. Let me share this and see if we can find this. Okay.
Let's see. All right.
See. Wait. Shit. Sure. See, this was the betting market that came up. It was plus 160 for between 12,000 and 25,000.
Oh my God.
And then if you wanted 25,000 and over by the end of March, you got plus 330.
Oh my God, that would have been a great bet.
But the point was that after a lot of people went after him for being insensitive and how dare you put a betting market on that stuff. So they think they took it down after then the WSOP not happening market, no is minus 303 and yes is plus 235.
Yeah. Wow. Wait, what? It's plus 2. Oh,
if
yeah.
you want to say there is a World Series.
Yeah, I got it.
You get 2.35.
Yeah, that's not enough for me.
Yeah.
But also, what's the to be played? Does it say in Vegas?
I think that's what it is. I think
That
that's what
probably has to be it. Oh man, crazy. How does Phil Galfond not even have 7,000 followers? You would think
Oh,
he'd have
yeah,
more.
I don't know.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna get out of here, guys. Thanks again for tuning in with us. Like, it's a weird time. Let's just all, we'll stay in touch as a community. We can't. I'm not gonna be able to go talk to other people, so I got to talk to you guys. So, yeah, let's get going. Let's have a good best of the day we can, and make sure to lock down. Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
That sounds good. Okay, we'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
We'll keep you updated. We'll make it worth your time.
For Sheets, I'm BobbyFi, saying stay safe.